Hi, and welcome to Voice with Julia and day 16 of our 30 days of breath support. We are past the halfway mark, and you saw my mini sermon yesterday. If you haven't caught up on days 1 through 15, oh, hold your horses, do not watch this video. Okay, go back and watch, because you're going to really take things out of context, and we need to have this cumulative understanding of how the whole system works before we put it together. But today we are going to be talking about two Italian terms of Sul Fiato and Col Fiato, okay? Or singing on the breath versus singing with the breath. And those are probably phrases you've heard. So we're going to talk about what that means in this video. But first, I want to invite all classical singers in the audience to check out our Lucca Bel Canto Institute that is happening this summer, September 9th through 16th in Lucca, Italy. And we would love to have you there. So if you're interested, please check out the link below and be sure to apply earlier, as spaces are limited.
Voice with Julia, change your voice, change your life.
Now, without further ado, we are going to be talking about the difference between singing on the breath or singing with the breath. Now, for those of you who have heard these terms before, you'll know that the ideal is singing on the breath. Now, some of you may have been told, you know, if maybe you're watching and you're not a classical singer, or maybe you've had a voice lesson that was a little bit different, you might have been told to send more air, right? These things can be helpful in the very, very beginning of voice lessons if somebody is just completely stuck, right? So please keep in mind that if you're watching this and you're liking what you're hearing and you're thinking, why did my teacher tell me that before? That was so wrong. No, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. It's that pieces of information sometimes are given to us at the point of development that we need them, but then we can cast them off. But I'm here to provide a comprehensive look at what real breath support looks like, okay? So this is not kind of remedial ways of fixing massive tension in the body. So if somebody comes to me, right, and they're so bound up that they can't, that they're just holding and they're not singing with any air, of course, we're gonna tell them to sing with your breath, right? Sing with the breath, okay, yes. So statements like that can be misinterpreted. And so it's important for us as teachers to make sure that that's understood, that that is a fix for the moment to help things get working, right? And that's not a long-term goal. So when we talk about singing on the breath versus singing with the breath, we're talking about this idea of appoggio, okay? We stay open. We are open and prepared to sing on the breath. We don't sing with the breath, because that's when collapse happens. That's when we send the air to the vocal folds, and then the vocal folds get very stressed out because there's just too much air, and then they stiffen. And that's why we will find, oh, we have trouble with high notes. Oh, we have trouble with loud phrases. Oh, we have trouble with soft phrases. Oh, God, we have trouble with anything difficult. We even have trouble with low notes. This is terrible, right? But this is what happens, right? The system jams up when there's too much breath sent and the vocal folds stiffen, right? And then everything gets tense. So this is a situation we want to avoid. Now, in like the perfect world, you would never sing any note with the breath. You would always sing on the breath. It's just humanly not really possible, but we do our best. And especially we have to pay attention to the beginnings of phrases. If we prepare well and we prepare to sing with our appoggio, right? We will be prepared to start the phrase well. And then most likely, if we can stay there, the phrase is going to end well, okay? So this is that idea. So whenever we sing with the breath, or we hear the phrase singing with the breath, remember, that is about collapse and airflow coming up through the vocal cords. Too much airflow, vocal cords get stiff, bad things happen, right? So we don't want to suffer that for ourselves. So we have to stay on the breath. This moves, right? But this stays, that's on the breath, right? With the breath is You can feel the difference, okay? Drop your rib cage. Feel the difference, like you're holding your breath out. You feel the yawn. Now drop it. You feel feel that the throat takes the pressure, right? Now, it might not sound bad when you're in your middle voice, but as soon as you have to go high or do anything tricky, it's going to jam up, right? So this is what that concept is all about, singing with the breath versus singing on the breath, okay? So when you hear that or you read that, I hope you'll understand that concept, that that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about maintaining the appoggio, which is basically the posture, right? The posture of our rib cage and diaphragm, so that it's fully supported and that we're not collapsing. And yes, sometimes I work with clients and they are like, oh my gosh, this is a workout. Ah! Yeah, it is a workout. Totally, totally. So you have to work up to it. Now, this is not a plug, but I'm going to tell you that one of the best things that I have done to really train this in myself and in my clients is using a respiratory assisted device, okay? So I can tell you a little bit more about that in another video, but that helps build up this musculature, okay? So if this is not something that you're used to doing at all, I would look into getting a respiratory assisted device. Right now we're doing a study on this and the effects of professional opera singers. So it's gonna be really interesting when we get all of the results compiled. But if you have trouble doing this, you're gonna have to work slowly, okay? Slowly, but just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not worth it. So practice, 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 and I'll see you tomorrow.